Welcome to the Master Your Millions podcast, the show all about your financial potential and leaving a legacy for future generations. Here are your hosts, Jason and Scott Henderson.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Scott Henderson, and my co-host is Dr. J. We've got a guest that we're extremely excited to have come on the show today. Dr. J, who do we have coming on?
Today's guest is Cliff Nonnenmacher, a seasoned entrepreneur, real estate investor, and visionary leader who's helped countless professionals scale their wealth and impact. Cliff is the founder of Franchisor and brings a powerful blend of strategic insight and down-to-earth wisdom to everything he touches. He's a man of action, integrity, and faith, and someone who knows how to turn challenge into opportunities. Cliff, we're honored to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. I'm happy to be here.
We've been looking forward to this interview for a while, and although we had a little bit of disconnect getting there, I love technology. We're really happy to have you here. You are like a franchise guru,
Franchise
right?
guru.
Tell us why franchising? Why would someone even consider that?
Yes, thank you. So I was self-employed most of my life, as they say, hanging your own shingle. So I spent most of my entrepreneurial career doing my own thing, whether it be I used to own water sport. I used to own parasail boats on the Jersey Shore, jet skis, water sport rentals on Marco Island, Florida. I've done video stores, right? I've done all sorts of different things, distributed the Fun Noodle. I've owned gyms, but I was an investment banker. So I used to trade on my own, and then I got involved in investment banking. And it was at that moment in investment banking where I said, I got to get out of the firm. I need to go do my own thing. And I bumped into a franchise and realized that franchising is the single greatest methodology ever created to create wealth. But more importantly, collapse time. If you can collapse time, that becomes a force multiplying effect, like 1 + 1 = 4. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about franchising, is that you have proof of concept, the blueprint, the roadmap has already been created, the mistakes have been made over the last 20 years by the founders. All you need to do now is execute. And I know that sounds simple. I know that sounds easy and elementary. It is actually very difficult for people to follow instruction. Very difficult. Most people cannot help themselves but sabotage relationships with other human beings, sabotage marriage, sabotage their career, people cannot help themselves. They can't. So it sounds simple, like all you got to do is take this blueprint and execute. The average person can't do it.
That's true. So what would you say is, I don't know, I wouldn't want to say typical, but an ideal franchise person? If someone's listening to you and saying, "Oh yeah, franchising is a great way to build wealth," that they can do very successful with that. You buy into the program, you follow the program or the model, right? The way a hamburger is cooked at McDonald's in St. Louis is the same as in Singapore, right? And that's really the thing about franchisors, is they've got to follow the program. But what would you say are some of the ideal characteristics, or the characteristics of an ideal franchisee?
That is a great question. And I'm going to tell you how 99.9% of my industry would answer that question. They would say this: the person needs to be able to follow a proven system. I take it a step further, because that's true, but I subscribe to what I learned from Jack Welch a decade more. Oh my goodness, I'm dating myself, probably 2 decades ago. Jack Welch said, number one question people ask me is, how do you find these employees? How did you manage all these CEOs? How did you create more CEOs than any CEO in the history of being a leader? And his answer was simple. It's called the 4E, 1P principle. Does the candidate for franchising have energy? Energy is contagious. Energy is everything. We're learning that now, right? I mean, energy is everything. I'm an amped up guy, got a ton of energy, and it makes people energized, which is the second E. Just because you have energy doesn't mean you can energize your staff and make them want to walk through fire and walls for you to hit your KPIs, to hit your revenue numbers, to build your brand. The third E We live in a time of the weakest men in history. We have feminized men in America. They're just downright weak and they have no edge. And when you don't have edge, it means you're not able to have a difficult conversation with another human being. So you're soft, right? If Dave Goggins was on the call right now, we'd say, this guy's soft. He's not willing to have a conversation with an employee that's either stealing, coming in late, not following instruction. You have to have edge. If you're going to be a successful business owner, you have to be able to have edge and have difficult conversations. The last E is execution, which is everything we've talked about. It's the cornerstone of everything to be successful. Everyone is idea rich and execution poor. You have to be able to execute. And the final one is P. P is for passion. You have to believe in something. Everyone wants to play it safe today, be neutral. They want to silence the intelligence so they don't offend the stupid. You have to execute. You have to be passionate about something. And that's really what makes a successful franchisee or business person is the 4E, 1P principle. And if you resemble those things, you're going to be successful no matter where you go. But franchising is absolutely the single greatest investment vehicle to create wealth if you resemble the 4E, 1P as I just laid out.
I love that. Robert Kiyosaki published a book. His second book is called Cash Flow Quadrant, and he diagrams out the four quadrants: employee, self-employed,
Mm-hmm.
business owner, investor. Right? Those are the four quadrants. Would you say a franchisee or a franchise owner is he more of a self-employed person, or is he more of a business owner?
That's a great question. We refer to them as franchise owners. Are they self-employed? I don't know the line between the two. They're not solopreneurs, so they're entrepreneurs. They do own the business. Yes, they're within the curbs of the franchise system. For example, you can't sell hot dogs at McDonald's, right? Seems almost unreasonable to say, well, wait a minute, I can't sell a hot dog at McDonald's. No, this is your menu. That's it. So it's like, well, am I really self-employed? Yeah, you're self-employed. Yes, you're a business owner. Yes, you're an entrepreneur. And I loosely say entrepreneur because did you create anything? No. Most franchisees will never invent, never create. They're not visionaries. So by definition of entrepreneur, I think Elon, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, I think these are entrepreneurs. They're visionaries. I think franchisees are business owners. We call them franchise owners, and they have to live within the rules of the franchise system. But they own it. They have equity. They have liquidity. They can sell it, and they're sole decision makers.
Well, one of the things I'm driving at is does a franchisee or a franchise owner need to be there all the time? Is that something that they're
Oh, okay.
are they there, 8 to 5? Are they the day manager
Great question.
themselves? Or can they
Yeah.
really be a business owner and step back and hire good people, leave for a couple of weeks and come back and
Hmm.
find the business
Yeah.
in better shape than when he left?
Love it. So possibly you, I know me, and I know many of the people in my circle. We grew up under this advice. If you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And that is the worst advice you could ever give another human being, unless you want to keep them poor and suppressed. So if you want to keep a human being poor and suppressed, you give him that exact advice. If you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. So I grew up with that. So I felt like I've got to dig in. I've got to be the guy behind the counter. I've got to be the guy driving the boat. I need to be the one doing all this stuff. And it wasn't until I entered franchising that I realized how to create wealth, how to scale a business, how to work on a business, not in the business. How not, corporate America is like, hey, you see something on the ground, pick it up. You should be willing to clean a toilet. No, I'm not cleaning toilets. I'm not doing $10 an hour stuff. Not happening. I'm way too valuable doing high level things. I'm not picking up garbage. I'm not cleaning the toilet. Like there are people within your organization that have been employed to do those things. So it's a total mindset shift. And I feel bad for some employees that need to go through the mindset shift from corner office cubicle to business owner because everything they learned in corporate America needs to be unwound because you're never going to be successful as an entrepreneur if you follow the corporate blueprint. So to answer your question directly, franchising wants people that want to work in the business, not on it. I don't believe in passive investing. I don't believe in it other than crypto, S&P 500, ETFs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. To me, that's passive. I don't even view real estate as passive. I've got real estate. I am way more involved than I ever want to be. And anyone that says real estate investing is truly passive, it is just lying. It's not. There's a ton of headaches with tenants. Unless you're going to outsource it to a residential property management firm, it is not nearly as passive as people say. So franchising isn't passive. You need to be involved. And I don't care if you're managing the manager, but it is not a passive investment. But yeah, I mean, when I'm working with clients, Jason, I'm telling them, I don't want to see you behind the counter. If you buy a UPS store, you better not hold tape in your hand, taping up boxes. Like, what a time management business tragedy that you and your wife are actually boxing up things. What the hell? Like, that's just crazy to me. It's like, who's doing online reputation management if you're boxing up a modem from AT&T? Like, how is that happening? So it's like all these things. Who's working on acquiring new customers? And then this moment happens with business people where you go, you do know there's only 3 ways to build a business, right? They're like, 3? What are the 3? You need to obsess over acquiring new customers. You need to obsess over increasing your average ticket, and you need to obsess over getting people to return the frequency of purchase. That's it. Those are the 3 ways to build a business, and people obsess over, man, I got to buy grease cheaper. I really wish I could do this. I should really shop, my insurance policy. People do the craziest things in business that have nothing to do with obsessing over the 3 ways to build your brand. That's why a lot of people run hard and fast and go nowhere. That's what franchising brings to the table: structure, discipline, and execution methodology, and keeping people out of making sandwiches and taping up boxes. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Sometimes people say, "Oh, that franchise, there's no way." I mean, I'm thinking like the big ones, like McDonald's or Subway, or some
Mhm.
of us like, okay, they're on every corner in every city. I can't get into that. But there's
Mhm.
lots of franchises, and so how does someone go about identifying a franchise and then actually getting into it? Do they contact them better to directly, or is it better to go
Right.
through some sort of broker?
Yeah, so that's what we do, right? And I appreciate that question. So a lot of people will do it on their own, and they'll jump on the internet and they will randomly click on things, and then their phone blows up with all these inquiries. Hey, I heard you want to buy a brand A, B, C, and D. And I've over 25 years of doing this, I have aggregated data because I spend $500,000 a year on lead gen and promoting our consulting company. That's a lot of data over 20 plus years at that spend. Let me tell you what I've learned, and big data is meaningful when you're running a business. Do you know that 90% of our clients that click on things never buy what they click on? How crazy is that? That is the disconnect between, I got this, I'll do it myself. I don't need you to help me navigate this process. Okay, what did you click on? Well, I clicked on brand A, B, C, and D. That's what you want to do? Absolutely. I've already determined that. What are you willing to invest? 50 grand. Okay, all those are off the table. You can't do any of those with 50 grand liquidity. None of them. That's how off you are. That's how I call this. And I say this with some degree of affection. Please listen to me. I feel most people and investors are broadly ignorant and narrowly intelligent. And I use ignorance not as a condescending term, as a term of being uninformed, grossly uninformed. So most people are broadly ignorant, narrowly intelligent. They lack discipline. They lack any adherence to due diligence. They're highly emotional and irrational. That just makes for bad business and bad decision making. Like, honestly. So
Yeah, and
people
anything,
need
yeah.
us. Yeah, man. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I could layer what I just said way outside of business. It's like, oh, interesting. You just bought, like, Scott. Scott just bought a Corvette. Yeah, sounds like a smart move with 2 kids. Like, yeah, right? Like, why would you buy a Corvette with having 2? This is what people do. It's like, I wanted it, I needed it. I know, but you're entering a new phase of life. Why would you do that? People do stupid shit all the time. Like, it's just crazy to me. So we bring discipline to the table. We bring that adherence. We don't let people deviate. We understand in granular way, what are your forget the brands. Like, this is something clients do not expect us to say. Forget the brands. I don't want to talk about a brand, because it's like talking about a prescription. Prognosis before diagnosis is malpractice. You said you want to buy a business and you expect me to tell you what to buy. That's like walking into my office as a doctor and it's like, give me a prescription. It hurts. It's wrong and it's malpractice. So what we want to do is say, why are you here? What are your investment objectives? AI replaced my job. I'm making $150 a year. AI just replaced me. How old are you? 55 years old. Okay. You're the protected class. You're not landing on your feet. And pretty much no one wants to hire you. And if they do hire you, it's going to be 80 grand, not 150. And you know it. And that's why you're talking to me. So level set that. Next, what do you really need to earn? Well, I really want to make at least 120. Great. Where are you? Oh, I live in Louisiana. Okay, what are the demographics of that community that are going to support the brand? Or I live in Buckhead, Atlanta, or I live in Denver, Colorado, San Francisco, Houston, Texas. Geography is everything to me. Discretionary spending, household income, population density. We go beyond the brand. And there's a reason I put emphasis on that. That's the name of our upcoming book, Beyond the Brand. And it's an entrepreneur's guide to fearless franchising because everyone just wants to talk about brands. And it's like, you got to go beyond the brand. Just because that guy is creating wealth in brand A, it could be your worst nightmare because you're a software engineer that doesn't like talking to people. He's a farmer rep. This guy loves going out to dinner, taking people out. You're sweating at the thought of doing it. So we got to make sure that we have people properly aligned with the right brands, with the right amount of income, with the right amount of liquidity, with the right amount of investment level, and put them in the right communities that are going to be, quote, sustainable to that brand. So I tell everyone, we work, and I don't know if I even told you this, we work for the client for free. Our services to the investor are free. We're compensated like realtors or headhunters. We're paid by the seller. So we're paid by the franchisor at the franchisor's expense. The listener right now that's even on the fence of buying a franchise has zero risk, zero expense, working with someone that has owned over 12 brands personally and have been doing this for 25 years. And I've guided thousands of franchisees through this process. They have no risk. Don't do it alone. Don't. That's my advice.
I think I heard you in that long answer there about that you kind of need to have experience in the area that you're going into. I
No.
mean, is that working experience?
Great.
Like,
Great.
let's say I
Yeah.
want to, we were talking before the show about there's a pizza place in town that I think has got some of the best pizza on the planet. And let's say they did have a franchise and I have no experience in food, or you talked another time about printers, if it went into that, do you need experience in the
Yeah.
area of that brand?
Yeah, great question. This is, you ever watch that program, Myth Busting? I just love that, right? Because there's all
Mythbusters,
these,
yeah.
yeah, right? People have these ideas. I call them head trash, and then they verbalize, and you're like, where did you get that from? Like, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. Franchising is for everyone, right? Again, 4E, 1P principle. Never did I say, if you want to own a pizzeria, you got to be a restaurateur. Or if you want to own a printer cartridge, you need to be an engineer. You do not need any direct industry experience. The only time you do is when you're applying for a job. Jobs require direct industry experience. Franchising, you just need to have the 4E, 1P, a burning desire to be successful, wanting financial independence and freedom, not wanting to be told what to do with your body on the job from corporate America, removing yourself from the corporate politics and all the crap that goes along with it. I'm working with a guy right now that commutes 2 hours each way to work in the Mid-Atlantic region, Virginia, Maryland, 2 hours each way. That's what I said. And I tell every client, if you want to instantly destroy the quality of your life, commute. Instantly destroy it. It's crazy. So we help people do that. But no, you don't need any direct industry experience. Of every brand that I've owned, I have known literally nothing. I used to own with my business partner, Justin, a multi-million-dollar restoration company that specialized in water, fire, mold, and biohazard in Annapolis, Maryland. I live in Delray Beach, Florida. I don't even live in the state. We leverage technology, KPIs, management, financial auditing, and transparency, and managed a multi-million-dollar business from many states away. I've only stepped foot in the state of Maryland 3 times in my entire life. So no, you don't need to. And I never even held the equipment in my hand to do the services. Again, work on the business, not in the business. And we practice what we preach here.
That's awesome. That's great advice. Well, Scott and I talk a lot about on this podcast. He does mortgages. He's a hard money lender. Bridge lending and stuff. Has a fund for that. A lot of times investing in real estate, and I teach people about being their own banker using life insurance, which is all around financing purchases, right? Um, are there unique financing availability to people that want to buy a franchise? I mean, I don't think they would use Scott's services. I think hard money
Right.
is probably way too expensive of capital to do that. In the event that they had a policy, life insurance policy that was big enough, they might be able to use that as a financing vehicle.
Mhm.
What other financing vehicles are there out there to purchase a franchise?
There is, so anyone listening, I've got a free book PDF on all the ways that you can fund the business. There is a pecking order, right? Maybe the pecking order is a little bit of cash on hand. Maybe the pecking order, secondly, would be a HELOC, and then you're getting into an unsecured
Life
line of credit.
insurance. Let's
Yep.
let's put life
Yeah.
insurance in there.
You could absolutely put life. I mean, do I put it on top? I don't know where I put it, but I would definitely put. You're saying cash value and borrowing against the policy?
Yes.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Don't know where to put that in the pecking order, but definitely put it in there. Any liquidity that I can find with a client, I'm interested in. This is where we get to like the crux of your question is if I ask everyone in America, tell me the most illiquid investment you have, a lot of them are going to say their 401k, IRA, SEP simples, qualified retirement plans. Why? Well, you can't touch it. You'll pay penalties and taxes. Okay, not true. That is not true. And what is crazy is, and we're all learning this now, which is nuts, the narrative gets set by media, narrative gets set by companies. Do you know what's happening right now with Fruit of the Loom? You guys are aware of this story now? Fruit of the
No.
Loom is claiming that they never had a cornucopia in the logo. Okay? That's what they're saying. This is a corporation that is dealing with the Mandela effect and wants the world to believe from their lips to your ears that we never had a cornucopia in our logo in the history of the company, which you know and I know because I'm a Gen Xer, is absolute. It's a patent lie. Okay, it's a lie. So now let's go back to Goldman, Solomon Smith Barney, the Dean Witters, the Morgan Stanleys. Well, what do they tell people? If you want to invest, it's stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That right? You cannot use your retirement plan to buy real estate, and you can't use your retirement plan to buy a business. That's what they tell people, and they scare the living daylights out of them. Since 1974, under ERISA law, the Employee Retirement Income Security Act, all three of us have the right to self-direct our retirement funds, self-direct into real estate, or a strategy called an ROBS. It's a rollover for business startup. It is the single greatest tax strategy ever for people that have money in their IRA that want to buy a business. You literally, I don't care your age. Age is irrelevant. I want to make that point. Age is irrelevant. You could be 20, 30, 40. You don't have to be at distribution age. You could take any amount of money out of your IRA and buy a franchise dollar for dollar, zero penalty, zero state, zero federal taxes. It is 100% tax-free distribution as long as it goes to the business and still maintain tax-deferred status.
So are you required to pay that back within 5 years like
It's
other
not a
quote
loan.
unquote loans
No,
from?
sir. Not a loan.
Wow.
It's
Okay,
no different from
that's
you. No different from you saying, Cliff, Scott and I are going to buy American funds, global. Okay, you're gonna sell it in 5 years, right? No, we're going to buy it. He and I are going to hold it for the next 30 years. Same way in business. It's not a loan. It is instead of you buying stocks, bonds, and mutual funds with IRAs, you've decided to invest in you, right? Scott decided to invest in him and his future family by buying a business and using his most illiquid assets to do it. And again, still maintain tax deferred status. What do I mean by that? Let's say Scott wants to buy a franchise for his legacy of his children. And he holds this business from his IRA for 10 years. He paid $300,000 for the franchise and he sells it for $600,000. He basically made 300 grand. That 600 goes into his IRA, tax deferred. The income the business has generated over the life cycle of the business is taxed at ordinary income, whatever his bracket is. But the actual appreciation of that asset over the years is tax deferred. And if he sells that business, it will go back into his IRA, tax deferred. This is insane. No one knows
Step up in
about it.
basis when he passes to his kids.
I don't know about the stepped up cost basis coming out of an IRA. I don't know that answer. But I
Interesting.
can definitely introduce
No.
you to people that would know if there's a stepped up cost basis on death from the IRA. Good question. Never been
Or
asked.
even like the ownership. Well, it's still the IRA. I don't know. That's an
It
interesting
is an
angle.
interesting
You
question.
said you have a a report or something. I
Yeah,
mean, we could put
it's
that in
like
the
a
show
booklet.
notes.
Yeah,
Can
sure.
we
Yeah, it's a
put it like in the
PDF.
show notes as a guest as a gift to our guests, or no, a gift to our listeners?
Yeah,
That would
I
be cool
mean,
if you allow us to do that, Cliff. That would be really great as a gift to everyone that's listening and they're interested. Look in the show notes. We'll have a link to that where you can get the booklet, right,
spot
and
on.
understand the different ways in which you. Most people think, and I don't know really what the price of franchises are, but in my mind, they're, half a million and up.
Mhm.
That they think, why maybe they have the 4E and 1P, right? They see that in themselves as like, I can do this, yet I don't have the capital. But if there's other ways to finance it, that might be of some value and an interest to people. That's what I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
you're starting at around 100, just so you know, just for the audience. You're going to start if you're going to enter franchising, let's say non-brick and mortar. So non-brick and mortar brands, you're going to be in that 100,000 range, and then it'll escalate to your point quickly from there, especially as you enter brick and mortar. So any franchise that requires a physical retail location, like the Subway you mentioned and the UPS stores, you're going to be starting your investment at really 350 and then continue up from there. That's typical. But non brick and mortar are some of the most asymmetrical investments, low buy in, very short ramp to break even, de-skilled labor, high margin, highly scalable, recession resilience, super low burn rate per month. I love those asymmetrical opportunities where I'm putting up a little bit of cash and I'm getting a 50 to 100% return on my cash. So those are the types of businesses that I like. I don't like low margin businesses. I don't like unscalable businesses where I need to spend six, seven, 800 grand every time I want to scale it. Those businesses don't interest me as much.
So it sounds like you're not much into the food
I
franchises.
don't food. Yeah,
There's just small
every
margins there.
that's my problem with food. You kind of you lost me on a few things on food. What if I don't sell my inventory? Oh, you got to throw it out. Home Depot does not throw out Milwaukee, power tools because they didn't sell them last month. Food business, it's sell it or you're going to chuck it. I mean, I hate. There's a ton of theft in that business, a lot of shrinkage, if you will. They are perpetual job hoppers as employees. I don't like businesses with insanely high turnover. If you look at the QSR space, the QSR space is the quick service restaurant space. This is your minimum wage payers, right? Some of the turnover in these businesses will range between 150 and 300%. You literally could go in January, buy a Subway sandwich, and not see that person in March. And I'm not exaggerating. So the turnover, these are perpetual job hoppers. They'll leave for 50 cents an hour. They'll leave for a buck because they're like, well, that's game changing when you're making $10, $12 an hour, 15 an hour. So I don't like those businesses. I also don't like the investment level. I don't like the risks. I definitely don't like the lifestyle. I don't like the hours of operation. That's one of the things we do all the time. It's like someone will brag to me and say, "Hey, you should show your clients my franchise." What? Tell me about it. We're doing this. We're doing $500,000 a year in revenue. We're netting 20% to the bottom line, and great. You should show it. I'm like, I have business that work 4 to 5 days a week, closed on weekends, phenomenal lifestyle. They're doing over $500,000 with a 20% net. Why would I want to work in a business 7 days a week to make $500,000 to make 20% net? And that's my issue with food. It just doesn't check a lot of boxes for me. And COVID and inflation and labor has destroyed food margins. They sucked to begin with, and now they're worse. Look, just use AI. Ask AI, how many food franchises concepts have filed for bankruptcy in like the last 2 years? Hooters just filed for bankruptcy. Del Taco's closing hundreds of locations. Food franchises are getting their nuts kicked in. That's my issue with food.
Okay. Way to be clear with that. I appreciate that. I was gonna, you know, let's say there's a franchisee that's listening, a franchise owner, okay, and it's not food, but it's in something else, and they are struggling. Are you someone that can help them turn that business around? Is that something you also do, or are you simply a broker, simply buying,
I'm,
putting buyers with
yeah.
sellers?
I do, right. So we tend to do three things. One, if your pizzeria guy, if he said I want to become a franchise, we will properly align him with a company that will make him a franchisor legally and properly. And I put emphasis on those words because the worst part of franchising is when you enter it. Those are the most disingenuous people in that space. They take advantage of the fact that you love your baby. You love your pizza baby, right? And they take advantage of that emotion when you're becoming a franchise. So we help people do it properly and way less than a lot of other people are going to charge. Second thing we do, which is our core competency, we help investors, hopefully your listeners, navigate this process and identify brands that they should be acquiring. We represent over 600 brands. So I have a massive database and client list of brands to introduce people to, investors to. The third thing that we do, if we latch onto a brand that we love, we will do what we call franchise development, and we'll help the brand expand their distribution channel by handling the inquiry, working the sales process, closing the deal, and again, helping the franchisor expand their brand. But our core is the center. Investors, I want to get out of corporate America. That's where we shine.
I love that. We are running out of time here. Scott, you have been really silent, and I know why, as your baby's been a little bit fussy the last little while. Is there something you can come off mute for a second and say, or should we close it down?
I've loved how this has gone. I would say again, this is about you. You need to spend time and think about what you want. What are the goals that you're trying to achieve? This can be a very reasonable route for a lot of you. So, but again, it comes down to is where's your mind at? What is the end goal?
Cool. Well, thanks. One last one, Cliff. Just a kind of a we ask a lot of our guests, what's the next big mountain you're attempting to climb? You've got a book coming out, probably you said September, I think.
September.
Right. What's your next big goal?
So I think right now we have a podcast called Pursuit of Profit. It doesn't compete. We only interview founders of franchise brands. So the interview it's almost very structured interview. Almost every interview would be the same in terms of the format. So it's very different where you guys are bringing on a lot of different guests. You're constantly changing up your questions and learning about different. All I have to do is learn about the different brands, really. So we're making a big push to get that off the ground, and so far we're doing pretty well in terms of monthly downloads and listeners. So the book is a big deal for this year. Expanding the podcast reach is a big deal, and then we're always looking to find that next opportunity to invest in. And at this stage of my career, I'm not buying brands to own and operate. I'm investing at the franchisor level. And that's what I want to continue to do, is to make investments in brands and let the brands execute and then share in the expansion, the royalty collection, and hopefully the exit to a private equity firm.
Cool. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on the podcast. This has been a really good interview, and I hope everybody that's listening has picked up a few things. We'll have contact information both for Cliff and for his booklet. I don't know if we'll maybe in the future come back and put a link to the book. What's the name of the book? Maybe they can just remember that, go get it on Amazon when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm early in talking about it. It's called Beyond the Brand. Beyond the Brand.
Okay, thanks. And as you know, when you want to contact Scott and I, there's everything in the show notes as well. And I'll turn it back over to you, Scott, to close us out.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Guys, like Jason said, if you'd like to connect with our guest, check the show notes down below. If you'd like to connect with us, also check the show notes down below. If you like this podcast, give us a 5-star review. It really helps us out and we really appreciate it. And last, remember that mastering your millions all starts with your mind and your team. Make sure they are the best. We will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Master Your Millions with Jason and Scott Henderson. Check the show notes for any links or contact information about today's guest. Make sure to follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes.